your phones. Providing an invocation today is Kelly Hutchinson, Executive Director of Development of the Salvation Army of Louisville, and also Chair of the Invocation Committee.
Thank you, President Kelly. Please join me. Thank you for each of those who are here today, and please be with those who could not be with us. We give thanks for the warmth of friendship, of cooperation, and of a shared purpose. Teach us to radiate kindness and concern, so that our time spent together can cause apathy, ignorance, and injustice to vanish. We're thankful for the opportunity to develop new acquaintances, for service to our community and to the world. We pray that this meeting will serve to strengthen our Rotary Club in its purpose and each of us in our service to help others. Amen.
Thanks, Kelly. Now to lead us to the pledge and four-way test is Eric Gerbich, Director of Community Relations at Parks Alliance of Louisville.
Thank you, President Governor. All together now.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now, four-way test.
Is the truth, is it fair to all concerned, will it build goodwill and better friendships, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thanks, Eric. Now it's time to introduce your guests. We do that from here at this point. Rotarians, please introduce your guests with your name first and their name, title, and organization, and guests when your name is called, just stand. And then after the luncheon today, what is Rotary table to learn more about our club.
So I'm Vernon Foster. I'm the Assistant Dean in College Business, University of Louisville. Go Cards. With me today is Rob Depp. And yes, Johnny is related to him. Rob is a specialist in brand strategy, so if you're looking for a business consultant, Rob's the guy.
I'm President Kevin. I'm Ashley Brower with Next Strategic Communications. My guest today is Lauren Liebert. She is a workplace culture and change management expert with Embrace.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians. My guest today is Mr. Aidan Quick. My name is Gary Wright, Vice President and CFO at JCTC. My guest is Mr. Aidan Quick. He's the Vice President of Internal Audit for the Kentucky Lottery. And I thought he was my friend, but he's yet to give me the winning Powerball numbers.
Hello, my name is Liz Matley. I'm the Customer Relations Manager for Mafia Digital Solutions. And I have my guest, Amy Torres, the founder of Director of Marketing Inc. So she does fantastic digital and all marketing for small to medium-sized businesses.
Rob, you guys have indicated, step over there after lunch and just more about the club.
Good morning, Delene Taylor, Executive Director of the club, and I am delighted after many, many invitations to finally have with me today Pinky Jackson, who is one of my idols and mentors, and she is the best home organizer you will ever find. She helped me, and I cannot recommend her highly enough. And I know I'm not supposed to do that, so erase.
I need a lot of help. Congratulations to Rotary's this guy in the spotlight. Congratulations to Lori Hudson Flannery and David Snyder on a successful I Rise Gala, a fundraiser for New Directions Family Self-Sufficiency Program. There were at least a dozen Rotarians in attendance, including Jeanne West, one of the best town presidents ever, who was the master of ceremonies, and Ashley Brower, who was the event coordinator. Congratulations to Maria Smith on Harbor House Louisville's Beacon Ball Saturday night. It was the event celebrated the transformation of the Intergenerational Life Center, which we were hearing about here a few months ago. I want to remind everybody of our membership initiative and the opportunity to have lunch covered for a prospective Rotarian that you bring as a guest. When you see leaders in our community being recognized, make sure they know about Rotary, invite them to a meeting. And your tables are business cards, which basically send invitations on them. You give that gift to somebody. There are more of those cards learning where they came from. Hope you're reading in Sparks. all the events we have coming in the next few weeks. Executive Director Delene Taylor is going to share a quick update. This is your only time to hear Sparks live. Go for it.
Testing, 1, 2, 3, all right. So, we have a lot to announce, and everybody wants me to announce their event, or they want to announce it, and that would not be practical, so I'm going to run through them all real quick. You can find all the details in Sparks. This Saturday, we still need volunteers for our annual Habitat for Humanity service project. This is the family that will be living in this home, so if you can work a shift, we have 2 shifts this Saturday. There is a QR code on the table out at check-in if you would like to go ahead and sign up while you're here before you forget. Or you can see Larry Sloan, is he here? Larry's right back here, you can see Larry. Friday, April 5th is our Caravan Day with the Kentucky Humane Society down at the Louisville Central Community Center. We need a couple of volunteers from 9 to 11 to help with our pet food giveaway. And you can also sign up for Date with the Dog that day at the main campus on Steeply Drive. So they have 5 dogs ready to be walked and played with. So if you like dogs, please consider that. Again, QR codes are out on the check-in table. We begin our weekly reading program with our 8th graders at West End School on Thursday, April 8th. Walt, I saw Walt somewhere. Raise your hand, Walt. See Walt if you're interested. I've done it. It's fantastic. They're inspiring and brilliant, so please plan to do that if you can. You don't have to do all the weeks. Also, we need members to help spruce up the Louisville Knot sign and the surrounding area on Saturday, April the 13th. Greg Ron, are you in the room? Yep. Greg's back over here. Please see Greg to get details and register for that. Also, a QR code is at the check-in table. We have partnered once again with Canopy and the Young Professional Associations of Louisville for a business synergy mixer on April 16th, hosted by Republic Bank's Chair Steve Traeger and CEO Logan Michelle. I don't know if I said that right, Michelle. At their newly renovated Plaza headquarters downtown. On April 23rd, we have a new member service project at SOS that in the evening. Jay Mallory is not here today, but he has details on that, and it's also in Sparks. We have a new event that's just posted, thanks to Kent Oiler, raise your hand, Kent. We have a tour of GE Appliances, I think buildings 2 and 3, is that right? Dishwasher production. So if you're interested in that, we have a limit of how many can go on that, so please see Kent or sign up using the QR code. And then finally, our monthly bill service and recent ministers will be Wednesday, April 24th. Larry Sloan, where you're at again, you can see Larry to sign up. That's fantastic too. And again, details, registration links are in Spark, so please consider these opportunities.
Actually, everybody knew about all this stuff before we did read Sparks regularly, right? Anybody not read Sparks every week? Fellow Rotarians and students of the Rotary Club to add new members so that we may not only increase our usefulness and influence in the club, but also to extend the spirit of Rotary throughout the community. Today is my honor to formally welcome 2 new members. I'd like to welcome to the stage Melissa Chastain and Liz Matley, please. Just want to get you guys dancing. You've been elected to membership in this club because we believe you to be a worthy representative of your calling and to possess the qualities that will permit you to exemplify your public, business, and private life, the true spirit of Rotary. You've been admitted not only to the Rotary Club of Louisville, but to a worldwide organization of over 46,000 clubs. And by virtue of your membership to this club, you are welcome to the fellowship of any Rotary Club in the world. Rotary membership adds value to those who engage, whether by attending meetings and events, participating in service projects, or sharing your knowledge and talents as we carry out the principles of Rotary into the community. And now formally elected as members of the Rotary Club of Louisville. Let me read that. Listen first. Anyway, I'm not going to paint you right mess it up. This is the Customer Relations Manager at Matley Digital Solutions. What's that? Oh, let me say what? No. Dr. Melissa Chastain began at Spalding University in 2004 as a faculty member, is currently the provost and chief academic officer. Her PhD is in communication from Duquesne University in Pittsburgh. Civic engagement includes serving as a Health Enterprise Network Fellow for the Louisville Chamber of Commerce, GLI, and she is past chairperson of the Kentucky Authority for Educational Television, KET. Melissa lives in Anchorage with her husband, Rob. I don't actually been there. Congratulations. And Liz Madley. Liz is the Customer Relations Manager at Madley Digital Solutions. She was formerly the Communications Director and Director of Volunteer Services at Active Heroes, Inc. Liz is married to Stephen Madley, who is also a member of this club. Congratulations. Thank you very much. We get pictures? Get a picture of that? Okay, get a picture again. Okay, I'd like to invite to the podium, you'd like to recognize this lady from before, Trudy Wheeler, past president of the Women's Club of Louisville, to introduce today's speaker.
Thank you, Kevin, and fellow Rotarians. It is with great pleasure that I get to introduce our guest speaker today, Jeanne James. But before I do that, I would like each of you to take a moment and think about someone that you have met, that you thought about and said, when I met them, I would have never believed that they had done that. So keep that in mind when you meet Jeanne today. So let's begin with the basics. In her early years, she grew up in Tennessee. And for those who love the University of Kentucky, we won't hold that against her. But she spent her teenage years in Florida and graduated from Florida State University. When you meet Jeanne in a casual setting, you might probably notice that she carries a cute purse and has interesting shoes. But wait a minute. She has 32 years in law enforcement, including a combination of police work, a member of the FBI, and was a Federal Air Marshal. Don't let the cute purse fool you. I first met Jeanne at Christ Church Methodist, where she was the lead usher, one of the things that she admits that she enjoys doing the best in our community. But as I was talking to someone, they looked at her, looked at me, and they said, you know, that one, that usher, she's packing. And I said, packing? Like a gun in church? She's packing. So that was one of the things that I kind of remember, but she will always say to you, if you ask her, I'll never tell. However, Jeanne has a lot of things that she has done, but she also enjoys hiking. So even though she was an air marshal, you want to keep this in mind. She doesn't take a hike like a hike through Cherokee Park. Her longest solo hike was 908 miles. Come on, Jeanne, couldn't you have made it 1,000? It's just easier to say. When she's not training for her hiking expeditions, she is giving back to the Louisville community. She is the first vice president of programming for the Women's Club of Louisville, and she is a member of AOL, the board of Louisville Orchestra. But to keep her mind active, she can also be found with her husband, Dennis Hesthaven, who is the top competitive bridge player in the state of Kentucky. So Jeanne keeps her mind moving as well as her feet. She is never at rest. When I introduce someone, I like to try to find a crazy fun fact about them. So Jeanne has one that's kind of interesting. She was a contestant on the TV show Password. She was first paired with Betty White, and then later she was paired with G. Gordon Liddy. For all of these reasons, and many more, Jeanne has also been chosen as one of Louisville's top most interesting women. Please welcome Jeanne James, retired FBI and Air Marshal. Thank you.
Thank you, Trudy. That was awfully nice. I'm not sure I can live up to that. Do I in the group? No, I was gonna tell him to take a nap, but since I don't have anybody, I guess that won't work.
Are there any undercover law enforcement?
So how did I get started in law enforcement? It was at Florida State, and I was Teague's sweetheart. Lived in a sorority house, was about as naive as you can dream up. But I was athletic. I was a gymnast growing up. And one of the men who was a part of the Teague organization was getting his doctorate and writing his paper on the role of women on patrol. Only in Tallahassee, there weren't any. So he gave me the opportunity to intern. And I thought that sounded like fun. I got 15 hours credit, and I got to ride around in a police car. I had never been in a police car, front or back. But I fell in love with law enforcement from day one. It was exciting. I had a big tail light, big flashlight. I actually chased somebody down and tackled him. I think he was so stunned, he just looked at me. But I decided this is what I wanted to do, and I went home. I hadn't told my parents about this intern thing, and they were, let's say, less than pleased. Especially my mother, because my grandfather was the chief of police. He retired the year I was born, so I didn't grow up in that world. And my mother grew up worrying about him. Well, her consolation was that I probably wouldn't get hired anywhere. But my father said, well, if you're going to do this damn stupid thing, you're going to apply right here where we live in Volusia County. So I took all the tests, and when I went in for my interview, with the sheriff and his people, I did something that maybe no woman in here has ever done. I lied about my weight. However, I lied the other way. The only time in my life for sure. And I wore the shoulder pads, the platform shoes were in those days. So when I got hired, and when I showed up, they were pretty surprised, because I wasn't nearly as big as I looked that day. But they put it up with me, and I worked patrol, and I absolutely loved it. When I went through the police academy, though, in Tallahassee, in Florida, you can go through the academy and not be hired by a department yet. So I went through in northern Florida. I was the only woman in the class, and I'd never fired a gun. And you have to understand that my experience with gun was watching Elmer Fudd. So you know where this is going. Anyway, my first day, first round, I had a misfire, and I had this little puff come out of my gun, and I was so sure this gun would explode that I sat it down on the ground and I backed up about 100 miles an hour. Safely, I pointed it downrange. And there was an FBI agent up in the tower directing firearms. That was common in those days for FBI agents to teach firearms. He was like, James, where the hell are you going? I was mortified. See, my plan was to just do what the men did, and nobody would know I'd never fired a gun. Well, that didn't work very well for me in the short run. So he took me under his wing and he taught me to shoot. And I started patrol at my 21st birthday. Now you can imagine, I don't know, I loved it. It was exciting. Most of the time I worked in an area with no backup, but I'm pretty friendly, so I got along just fine. I did everything. And I still love Volusia County, my original police department. Well, this FBI agent bugged me. Well, I wasn't old enough to begin with, and he bugged me unmercifully till I put in an application with the FBI. The FBI had started hiring women, and he just thought with my law enforcement experience, that would be an asset, and it was. Well, 6 weeks later, I found myself in the FBI Academy in the first group of women hired. Now, there were some tokens before me, but not a whole bunch of them. And thank goodness I knew how to shoot. And when I was going through the academy, all of a sudden, the academy sort of panicked that women were really coming to be agents. And they decided they would make it ever so tough on us, like 10 times tougher. But I could shoot. I got through all of that, and there were only 4 of the 10 of us that made it through the academy. So it was pretty stressful. Well, they sent me to Jackson, Mississippi. Oh, yay. But I thought I was going to a city because I'd never lived anywhere very big in my life. And so the head guy, the SAC, special agent in charge, did not know what to do with me. And when I got there, all the men had these really nice wooden nameplates that said SA for special agent John Jones, Sam Smith. Except mine said Miss. Well, I wasn't happy with that. And I objected. Maybe I had more guts than sense in those days. But I said, I won't want SA. And he said, no, the rule is that women are all Miss. Only men are agents. Well, I took it home and I hacksawed that mess off. I thought I would be playing old Jeanne James. I didn't get fired for that. I suppose I could have been in trouble. So he sent me to the Delta of Mississippi. He wanted me out of his hair. He sent me as far as he could think of, out of Jackson. Well, he had an even better idea. He decided he would send me to Kansas City. Now, you all know the FBI bugs places, yes? Yeah? And people call the FBI all the time and say, well, I think my phone's bugged because there's static. If we bug your phone, you will have good reception. Okay? So, there are so few wires going, and under federal law, an agent has to monitor all the time the mics. And that comes a long way back when somebody was killed and nobody was paying attention, but that's another story. So he sends me to Kansas City, and they have learned that I'm an excellent lookout because a guy or 2 men in the car, everybody gets suspicious. They can put me pretty much anywhere and nobody would get suspicious. So they sent me to Kansas City to work on a Mafia case. And I sat out there, and it's a legal break-in when they go in, and they bug the offices, the phones, the rooms itself. Only they had a restaurant downstairs, and we were only getting information like food orders. And I was really tired of hearing about food orders. And I had this supervisor that I considered somewhat less bright than a 10-watt bulb. And I'll explain that a little later. But he sends me in, and I'm supposed to scare them from the restaurant upstairs, where they'll talk FBI business, and we can pick it up. So I drive there thinking it's the dumbest thing anybody's ever asked me to do. So I go in, I sit down, and about 3 Mafia guys joined me. And, because I'm 25, I look 19. And so I talked to them, I just played along. And before I left, they had offered me a job. So the FBI had been trying to get somebody in for a long time, and they never thought women could work organized crime. They just didn't look at it right. So it was the meeting place of a lot of the top Mafia people in the country. I met some of the big ones. And the funny thing is that I had a fake ID. Okay, it was from Mississippi, and the guy who was second head of the state police gave it to me as sort of a joke. And my name was Lillian Ann Bell, AKA Lily Bell. So for the next almost 2 years, I was Lily Bell with a date of birth of 4/1. Nobody caught me. I had a real social security number, all of that. So every day I went to work, and it was a barbecue restaurant. I'll tell you something about men in Kansas City. I always smelled like barbecue. And no matter where I was, some man would come up to me and go, honey, you smell wonderful. Okay, that might not work for you single girls in Louisville. During the pandemic, toilet paper was hard to come by. And so I walked to Kroger, and the only toilet paper, I found toilet paper, one of those things like this. So I walked all the way down Bardstown Road with my toilet paper. I have never had so many men beep and wave at me. So ladies, if you have your own toilet paper. But I ended up meeting so many of the Mafia people. At night, I would have to go through pictures to, identify who had been there. There was a big camp, Las Vegas. And, I will tell you, if it wasn't for that murder and extortion problem they have, I've never met a nicer bunch of people. And I ate really, really well. So, was I ever afraid? Yeah. I ended up, now, I did this by myself. I couldn't wear a wire. I couldn't be armed. So I did have a tiny little Derringer hidden in my purse, but I ended up under the docks and nothing but Mafia guys. Nobody knows where I am because, I'm on my own for this kind of thing. And this 10-bulb supervisor had told somebody in the police department that they had somebody undercover, which is such a no-no. I mean, he really did put my life in somewhat of jeopardy. So I just found that out, and I'm at this bar, and the Mafia guy that I went there with was telling me about what they do to snitches. And telling me about killing people. I think this is it. They know. I had no choice but to keep calm. And thank goodness the bartender didn't like the guy I was with, and he was feeding me orange juice most of the night, because that's a pretty lightweight drinker. I'm a little better now, but not so much then. Well, I got back to my car the next morning, and I have watched all those same movies that you guys have watched. I was afraid to turn the car on. I thought it would explode. So it didn't, obviously. I'm here. I got to be, I won't say friends, but kind of like adopted by the guy who was the godfather. And he was from Sicily. If you do know the real Mafia, you have to be male, you have to be Italian, preferably Sicilian, to be a part of the Mafia. But he would tell me stories about Sicily. And I was fascinated because I'd never traveled anywhere. Well, I had a fiance as a part of my cover story. And he finally said to me one day, well, he evidently isn't going to marry you. Oh, and my cover story was that I had finished college and my parents wanted me to go to the law school and I didn't want to. And, it was pretty easy to fake that story. But he said, if he's not going to marry you, I have a husband picked out for you. So, and let me tell you, this husband was Tony. Not only was Tony gorgeous, he gave me the best haircut I've ever had in my entire life. I would still go back to it. Well, I had to think about it. I mean, I was not thinking about marrying the Mafia guy. But about the same time, you never know what crazy things will happen to you when you're working undercover. So I'm in there in a little, waitress outfit, and in walks one of my best friends from high school. Well, I hit the bathroom, like, oh my God, lucky enough she was just asking for directions. We graduated in DeLand, Florida together. I mean, the chances of this are so minuscule. But in a reunion later, class reunion, she lived in that area for about 6 months, and she remembered going in the barbecue place. But, she wasn't looking for me, so even if she saw me, she didn't, it didn't register. You have crazy things happen, too. I was on the way out of there one day, and a man pulled in front of my car and got out, and he's having a hissy fit and yelling and screaming that I cut him off. I tell you, if I did, it'd make a better story. I didn't cut him off. And so about the time, and I'm thinking, well, I can't identify myself. I have a gun under the front seat. But I can't identify myself. But about the time he told me he was going to pull me out of the car and take my whatever, I decided I had to do something. So I reached under the car and I pulled out a rather large gun, my .357, and pointed it at him and said, you might want to rethink that. That's the fastest I've ever seen a man move. He did not even open the door of his truck. He dove through the window, and I haven't seen him since. So, you have to deal with it. I had to let this roll 24 hours a day. It was kind of a lonely existence. It made me understand how somebody could get in trouble, you know, working that kind of thing, if you're around less charming people. But when I told the Mafia I was not marrying, when I told the FBI I was not marrying into the Mafia, they decided they better get me out of there. And they did. And the last day I worked, there were 2 agents in there drinking beer just to make sure I got out of there safely. Did they ever know? You know, in the Mafia, if you bring in somebody to be a made member and they turn out to be an informant, they kill them and you if you're the sponsor. So you think about it, sponsoring all the people here. This was the Mafia. You would be really picky. But they got me out, and the man who hired me, I found out about 4 weeks later that he committed suicide. And I will never, ever, ever believe that. So, can I prove that? No. Would there be a reason? No, probably not. Well, the FBI sent me, watch my tongue, the FBI sent me to Los Angeles. No good deed goes unpunished. I never had to testify, though, because they backed everything up with independent investigation. So I get to LA, I worked a whole lot of different things that were fun and interesting, a lot more undercover, and I made finally, there's a couple of more women agents there, how fun. But I made one of my lifelong best friends to this day, and you know they're a good friend. When we were serving a warrant, or we were going to interview somebody about getting a warrant, and we go up to the door, and this is just supposed to be a witness, and we hear the distinct sound of a shotgun being racked. And I had on the only pair of Ferragamo shoes I've ever owned. They were pink and white, and they were super smashing. Well, you know, I caught the heel of it in a little hole in the porch. Out of my shoe I came. And you know it's a good friend when they will crawl up with you under possible gunfire to retrieve your shoe. But I worked bank fraud and embezzlement for you bankers here. That was fascinating in LA because a lot of the head banks are there. And finally, I get back to Louisville. Hallelujah. You know, head of the Fugitive Task Force was really my favorite job in the FBI. And I had a burly police officer partner, and all we did were look for dangerous wanted people. But, well, some of the things, like I found out that if he would pull our car, we did not have a police-looking car, right into the car in the driveway, I would run up to the door and boo-hoo and say, oh my God, I've hit your car. They'd come running out every time to check, and it's a whole lot easier to arrest them, you know, when they're not inside their house. I went in, this was an armed robbery. I went into my partner and I hated surveillance. We hated sitting in a car hoping they'd come out. So pretty quick we decided, well, we'll go up and knock on the door and we'll tell them we're with the water company. So we did, and go in and I tell her, you know, we got a water main and I don't want you to have to pay a lot of money for this extra water. And she said, oh, come in, come in. And so we did, and I tried the faucet in the kitchen. No, it's fine here, but it usually happens in the bathroom. So we go in, and directly in bed is a guy that we're looking for who's committed 2 murders and a bunch of armed robberies. So, and he happens to be completely nude. So we know he doesn't have a gun on him. So we arrested him, and as we're leaving, this girl is crying to, I'm assuming her mom on the phone, saying, yeah, this police officer came in and he brought the water lady. And have a badge, but no, I'm the water lady. The only one that we did that wasn't a dangerous felony, she committed a couple of robberies. And I had a policy that I never involved anybody's children in anything I did. But I knew she was, where the child went. The child's at school, and I called and said, we are having a cake bake. Would you bring a cake, please? And she said, oh, yes, I'd be delighted. I said, well, you're going to so much trouble. I'll pick it up at your house. We get there, and I almost felt bad. This woman had the most beautiful decorated cake you've ever seen. And so we arrested her, and she goes, well, I guess you don't want that damn cake, do you? So I borderline felt kind of bad. We had another one that we arrested that I had been looking for a long time. He owed the most, this is our only really other non-dangerous one. He owed the most in child support of anybody in the state of Kentucky. Had several wives. And so I had been trying to catch this guy, but he would work off the barges in like New Orleans, and they don't keep records of who's working. And so just as a lark, we had this little truck, and we had, the little togs and, the shirt, freedom delivery. And so we go up to the door with a great big box, and his mother answers the door. And she said, oh, I'll get him. And he comes running out, and of course, we arrest him. And as we're going to jail, he starts laughing, and he says, I can't believe I fell for that. Well, on my credenza at home, I have a picture of him like this, with a big grin, my partner and I. Do you know, he paid all those women off, and I used to see him downtown occasionally. He'd always give me a big hug. But you gotta be clever sometimes to catch these people, and it makes it far, far, far less dangerous than just knocking on the door and, screaming police. Now, we could go into a whole subject, but I want on that, the no-knock warrant. This is a little different than the no-knock warrants. Well, I wanted to stay in Louisville. Oh, I'm gonna tell you a story, 2 stories actually. Yep, I'm okay. In the police department, everybody's mad at the police these days. And I was a sergeant out in Charlie District. And one Christmas Eve, this family had a burglary, and every Christmas present for their 3 young children was stolen. I had the young guys, the new guys on second shift, and do you know they convinced the manager of Walmart to open up for them, and out of their own pockets, they paid for that Christmas for that family. So, the Courier never reports that kind of thing. And the other story is I have truly seen a miracle, because when there's a bad traffic accident, you have to have a commanding officer. And I get the call, semi versus motorcycle on the Jeanne Snyder. Okay, well, somebody's dead. I'm sorry, that motorcycle's dead. And so I get there, here stands the maddest man I've ever seen, and he is skinned up. But this semi, the guy told me he was doing close to 80 driving the semi, and he's like, blah, 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 blah. He hit the guy. The motorcycle and the guy went all the way under him, didn't hit a tire, and there he stood. He refused to get in an ambulance and rode off on the back of his buddy's motorcycle. So to this day, I think that it just was not his time to go. So I ended up, staying in Louisville. That's why I was with the police department. I wanted to stay here. And then 9/11 happened. Am I out of town, or is that phone? Okay. A couple more. Ended up going with the Air Marshals. And I helped set up the Chicago office, and then I came to Cincinnati and set that office up. Air Marshals, their job is to protect the cockpit. That's it. You are to protect the pilot, and if anybody gets rowdy or whatever, then you can take action. Truth of the matter is, I read a lot of books and did a lot of needlepoint, but I was a supervisor. And so I did mostly international trips, and I didn't fly all the time. But I got to fly to South America. And it was so interesting. On one flight, everybody on this flight, except for the crew and the air marshals, was very short, very dark, and carrying a live chicken. And it was American Airlines. So I'd never been on a flight full of chickens before. And when you're an air marshal and you go to a foreign country to spend the night, because you can't fly 24/7, we have a whole process. After everybody leaves, the air marshals then have to unload their guns. We have a box, the box that's bulletproof. So you unload your gun, you put it in this box, lock it up, and it goes to the embassy. Okay, well, when you come back, the reverse process, you end up having to reload your gun. And I'm there, the senior pilot with American Airlines says, "Oh, are we planning on shooting somebody?" They asked by me. I said, "Well, my love life wasn't very good at this point." And I said, "Well, if I do, it'll be a man." I know when I've been bested, because he said to me, "Were we ever married?" So, I went through a whole lot of stuff, and I know you have questions, or hope you do anyway, so I'll open it up to you. Any questions?
Questions from the audience?
That's okay. Thank you so much.
No, I have a question. I'm gonna get in front of the camera so I can. So if you could do something else, if you had not ended up on this career trajectory, what else would you have chosen to do? Do you know?
I'd be a pastry chef. Because I love to bake. And so that, I always thought, before I die, I'm going to go to the cordon bleu and take a class. I've been to the CIA, the baking one, not the real CIA. But yeah, I think some sort of chef would have been it.
I go to Kansas
Yes,
City a lot. First of all,
You might, come up to the mic if you would mind, Gary.
it was that way it was. Jack Stacks.
So my college roommate lives in Kansas City, and I go to a lot of barbecue spots, so I'm trying to figure out which ones should I go. I'll be here again in May, so just.
Well, I'd be more nervous about the Italian restaurants there. The barbecue place was in Kansas, and it is no longer there. So you're not going to stumble into it. But avoid those airy bars beneath the dock.
Go ahead.
So air marshal, so does every flight have an air marshal? And so if you're an air marshal, you have a loaded gun on every flight? So if you get on any flight anywhere, there's an air marshal? How does that work?
No, that's one of the big secrets of the federal government. We used to say that they picked what flights were going to have an air marshal by the monkey and a dartboard. So that's as close as I can tell you. But there are not that many. And now the Air Marshal Service has gradually gotten smaller. There were only 23 air marshals when 9/11 happened. And they were armed.
23 flights back then, wasn't it?
Yes, for sure, as are today. And I think at top, there were only 8,000-ish air marshals. And I don't know what they're down to now, but I know they're greatly reduced in size. Yes.
You talked about being just one of the very
Please go up front.
When you started, there were so few female law enforcement officers. What would you say the percentage is today? Any idea how far along females have come?
I'd say in the FBI, it could be as high as 30%, 25%, somewhere in there. The police department, maybe, I guess, 15, 20%. It's still, people used to come up to me all the time and go, well, I could have been hired if they hadn't hired you. I'm like, yeah, they don't hire men in this organization, so I'm sure you could have. But
I was born in Volusia County, so not too many people mention Volusia County.
Microphone.
So I was born in Volusia County, so nobody, y'all know what Volusia County is? No, Daytona. I always say I'm from Volusia County, but I don't want to tell people that I was born in Daytona. So I just want to hear the best story when you were working for the sheriff's department, because I grew up, actually I live in Samsula, so you all know. Oh, I know, I'm country.
tiny little place. Oh, the best story when I was a police officer. Okay, when I was applying, my dad owned a country bar. He would buy these bars and build up the business and then sell them. So I knew a lot of people up in the Pearson area, and he had this little country bar. And so I became a police officer, and one night we get this call of domestic violence. The guy is under, you don't have basements, but under the floor. Yeah, crawl space, that's what I was trying to think of. And so he is holding his wife hostage of all places under there. I don't exactly know why. I kind of understood it knowing the guy. But I knew him so well from the bar, and I always think he always got cherry vodka. Bleh. And so everybody's rolling, and I get there, and I'm like, no, you know, let me handle this. And so I told him, I said, you know, if you let her go, you can keep the gun, that's fine. You let her go, and I'll go get you a pint of cherry vodka. So he let her go. He stayed under there with the gun, and then when I got the cherry vodka, I said, okay, but you have to come out and give me the gun. He came out, we gave him the cherry vodka, and he drank it all the way to jail.
Mike Brumley, morale at the FBI. You know, when I was growing up, until the last 5-10 years, I never even knew there was any political side to the FBI. And I have friends that work for the Department of Homeland Security. And I don't really understand how and if those two organizations even work together or why they may or may not, why it's become so political. So that's a whole other issue. How's the morale at the FBI with it now being politicized?
It breaks my heart because on the agent level, it's not political. Sometimes you're ordered, they can't order you to do anything illegal. But it's on the top side of all that. And the Bureau, the FBI Bureau, is under the Department of Justice, and of course Air Marshals are under Homeland Security. And it's those guys at the top who, you know, get their shorts in a lot. So, but it's sad how much that it has changed. And I don't think the working agents are a part of that. They're just having to put up with it.
You told us about some of your stories, which are fascinating. Tell us about, either from Air Marshals or undercover with Mafia, the most dangerous and interesting stories you heard about anybody.
Oh, about anybody. We were mostly gathering intelligence with the Air Marshals. But the closest I ever came to having to step in was we had two 50-year-old men trying to pick up two 19-year-old girls, 19-ish college girls. And they were seeing who could drink the most. And they were up in first class, which that's where the Air Marshals are. There's always two, unless you're on an international flight. But we thought we were going to have to step in because the guy fell against the door of the cockpit. And the girls outdrank them. Flight attendants were able to calm them down. If there's a flight and there's any kind of a threat that's reasonable, you know, not just some kid, that flight does not go. So the security is pretty good. You hear occasionally of somebody trying to get their security, and every once in a while somebody does. But we, to the best of my knowledge, we've not had any incidents, the Air Marshals have not had any incidents on board flights other than that kind of silly stuff, or somebody not obeying a flight attendant, because that's also federal law. If they tell you to sit down, you better sit down, because you could be arrested either if there's an Air Marshal on board right then and there, or when you land, there will be somebody waiting for you to take you to the bogey.
Any regrets?
Any regrets? Oh gosh. Yeah, I have one. I got picked for K-9 with Jefferson County. I had wanted to work, I'm a big animal lover. Even though I only have cats, I still love dogs. I had wanted to do that forever. And it's when Leon Jones was the chief. So I got picked, I'm all excited, and he called me into his office, and I have a lot of investigative experience. And he said, "You are not going to work with the damn dog. I'll put you anywhere you want to go, you know, and CID detectives." So I didn't think it was wise to argue with him. But that's my one regret, that I didn't get to do K-9.
Well, glad to see you here alive. That's fantastic. What an interesting life, huh? I mean, you can keep that. Next week, we're with the Unsung Heroes. We're not going to be here next week. We're going to be at the Sabre Room in River House, where we used to be. So next Monday, by noon, usual time, try to register for that. But it's, again, not going to be here next week. And committee leaders, remember today is stick around after this luncheon if you can. The Service Project Grants training is going on shortly after in the library. So, but guests, go ahead and join the Warren's Rotary Club, a table to learn about our club with Craig Sherman. There he is. Thank you.